You ever talk about us?
No.
Oh,
Damn,
so sad.
Buy our mugs.
Your family will all say, Jack Smith rocks.
Hello.
Clap.
Hello.
Hi. Hi. Hey.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey.
People don't say hello anymore.
They don't. Hello. This podcast is not for you. My name is Jake.
My name is Peyton.
And I never have it ready, but my name is Random Beep.
Hello, Random Beep.
Beep!
So we're missing Wes today, actually. So
Yeah.
we will be talking about his pets.
Nice.
We are going to talk about
Beep!
beep beep.
Just
beep.
kidding. That I'm not going to keep doing
That's a
that.
terrible
Don't you
bit.
worry.
We will be talking about pets today. Switch things up. I thought this would be a fun one because I think we have some unique ideas for season 3. So I thought let's throw some in just to
Get it going.
get it going.
A lot of people got pets.
A lot of people have pets, and they're
A lot of pets out there.
they're sort of like
A lot of pets have people, though, as well.
a lot of pets have people.
That
And
is
boy, is that true. So we are going to talk about lessons that our pets have taught us. So a little bit more than just like
Mathematics, geometry. I mean, anything that.
Where did this idea come from, Jake, for you?
the nature of having a quote unquote exotic pet it's just a different experience.
Did you have rabbits?
Yes, I have 2 rabbits. So the process of getting them and creating a environment that they feel comfortable in and getting to know them and caring for them, it's completely different than most people are just like, oh, it's like a cat, or it's like a gerbil or a hamster, and it's like it could not be farther from the truth. So
Yeah.
I was just thinking that's where the idea stemmed from, is like I've just learned so much, getting something different than what I was accustomed to growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the idea came from.
Cool.
But speaking of which, what pets have we had growing up? Just you guys were raised in the same household, so not a lot of diversity is going to be had
I was in
here.
the shed out back.
Oh, okay.
out
So
there,
you could've
but
had
I
some-
came into those.
He had all
Yeah.
the farm animals. I had
Okay.
the domestic
Uh-huh.
house animals.
What kind of
So we
specifically?
had Wes might be able to help with the oldest pets that we had in Wichita.
The first cat I remember us having was a cat called Sophie, and I remember. I think she
Calico.
Yeah, I
All
think
calico cats are female.
I think she was. I think they gave her. I can't remember the story because I don't know if it was a story of the cat died and they were telling me something. I don't think our parents would do that, but I've never followed up about like what happened to Sophie.
Well,
Um,
she died.
She's dead now,
Right.
Because it was
Eventually.
25 years
Even
ago.
if it wasn't then.
But something happened. We gave her away, or she had to be put down, or something.
Yeah.
And that was. I think you were probably like 2 or 3, maybe.
Yeah, I barely remember.
But I had a guinea pig for
do
a little
remember
while.
I do remember
in,
Indy.
like junior high, named Indy after
Whoa.
Indiana Jones, because he had a little brown spot on the top of his head, like a
Oh,
hat.
little hat.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was a
guy
terrible
hated
pet.
us.
He was a terrible pet.
Yeah.
He was just
Maybe
like,
we were just terrible owners.
maybe he's guinea pigs. I think are generally kind of grouches. Like they're not good pets from everything I know. But yeah, had a guinea pig named Indy for a little while.
What
gave him away.
Okay. You
We were
said
like-
for a little while. I was hoping that was
It was
the
like a
way that it
year or
went.
2, and then I was like, this guy sucks.
Okay.
Gave him away.
He did not live up to his name.
No, he was
Not
not
at all.
nearly as cool as Harrison Ford. And then I think outside of that, it was just Bob and Smokey.
I don't know if you could call it a pet. I had a hamster in high school for a class. It was psychology, I believe.
One of those.
Yes. So I had him for a long time though. So I guess I would.
Little tiny one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Raj.
Hmm.
And he ran a course really well. Let me tell you.
Nice.
That'd be the only other one besides our two cats. But those are the mainstays of the Walker household were our two cats, Robert and Smokey.
Yeah.
Smokey 2.
Smokey 2.
They were brothers, born in our house 16 years ago.
Yes.
They both passed away this past year.
16 years.
This past year.
Mm-hmm.
They were, 16. So they were pretty old.
Yeah,
They passed away 6 months apart, almost, but just 1 day short. So, but yeah, we had them for a long time, and then I have a dog now named Magnolia. She's a black lab, and she's just a year old. So,
where'd you get her?
Our dad's cousin has labs in
Labs all over the
has
country.
laboratories.
COVID labs.
Yeah.
Flu labs.
He's got labs.
He's Elon
for
Musk.
Duck hunting in southern Illinois,
Beep.
and they
That was the last one, I swear.
and they had a litter of puppies, and there was one female dog in it, and we wanted a girl. We didn't want to deal with a boy
Right.
dog, so we got a little black lab, and
Nice.
she's super cute, super high energy, but pretty fun.
Cool. That's
Mhm.
been a year already, huh?
For us, having her 10 months, but she's a year old.
That's still crazy. It doesn't seem like it was.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
Yep. That's all of it for me, and I think you. What about you,
Mhm.
Jake?
At our old house, we had a cat named Sugar, and Sugar was this big, fat, fluffy white cat, and
Sounds right.
yeah,
Sugar.
and she died.
Okay.
She was
She
out.
was,
Our-
and then she was no longer.
Our backyard was fenced in at my old house, and I guess one night some dogs jumped over the fence, and we had her declawed because she was mostly an indoor cat, and she couldn't climb a tree or anything because she was declawed, and they killed her. So it was
Wow.
Yikes.
pretty wild. Yeah. So
Some dogs, not your dogs.
no, yeah, we don't. Yeah,
Weird.
we didn't have any dogs.
Could it
So
have been coyotes?
my dad, I think he heard the dogs barking,
Mm.
and he just
Didn't think
assumed
about
that
it.
they weren't in our backyard because that usually didn't happen. So yeah, and then we had a calico cat, female, named Kitty, and she lived with us for a while. I was so young when we had these two pets, but I think she probably died when I was 6 or 7, and
Hmm.
then we got Yogi, and then we got
Another cat.
yes, another cat, Yogi, brown or gray cat named Yogi. And Yogi was great. And he died when I was in 7th grade. And my mom, I remember when she picked me up, she told me. And I was like, that's sad. And then
Just like that? That was it?
that was it.
Really? That is sad,
That's
Mom.
sad. 7th
Mother?
grader.
That is sad.
And then we got Smokey. Smokey when I was probably in 8th grade.
Smokey won.
Smokey won, and he passed away 2 or 3 years ago, I think. 2 or 3 years. So it was, yeah, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I had Smokey for I think he was 12 or 13, so he
Yeah.
didn't live quite as long as Smokey 2 and Bob. But and then I got Pax, a Netherland Dwarf rabbit, Netherland Lop, so his ears
Mm-hmm.
flop down. And 2 years ago, I think, December 2019. So I got him just a little over 2 years ago. And
now,
then
would you say his favorite thing is chewing on stuff?
yes,
Okay.
he's a chewer for sure. We got another one, a Blanc de Hot Tot white.
Excuse me?
That's the
It's pretty easy, Wes. Okay.
breed of
A Blanc
rabbit
de
that
Hot Tot.
Annie is. A Blanc de Hot Tot. So her ears are
Love
up
that.
since it's not a lop. So she's got rigid ears. They're sticking straight up. She's not much of a chewer. We got her about a year and some change ago. We rescued her from a shelter here that just had her in the lobby in this tiny cage, and dogs barking everywhere and cats are running in and out, and so
She's not.
She's more of a thumper than a chewer.
yes, she has a little bit more free roam over the house unsupervised because she doesn't really chew on as much as Pax does, but yes, so
Pax
she's
just wants to gnaw,
I
man.
know.
Gets his gnaw on.
He's entitled to everything in the
Yeah.
house is what he thinks. So those are the two current pets. Honorable mention, Chelsea's roommate, my fiance's roommate, had a wonderful, wonderful rabbit named Ollie.
I actually
And
met Ollie once.
Ollie was amazing. He was great. And that was the first introduction for rabbits.
He was like huge, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, what
he's-
was
he's
his
a fatty.
species?
I think he was just he was a Holland Lop, right? He's a mini Lop. But weird thing is, mini Lops are big, Holland Lops are small.
Okay.
So
Weird.
I know. So,
Are they from similar area? Are they
I don't
from Holland?
I don't know
okay.
where the mini Lop comes from.
Okay.
But it's fat, huge.
Yeah,
And,
he's a big boy.
And so that was the first introduction to rabbits, and Chelsea was like, I think Leah's like talking about getting a rabbit, and I was like, you should say, if you get a rabbit, that's fine, but we're sharing an apartment, right? I mean, I'm Chelsea. I wasn't sharing an apartment with Leah, and I was like, you just tell her, keep it in your room. We're not gonna be responsible, and then just fell in love instantly.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy. So, so that was how we got introduced to rabbits, but that was probably 4 years ago, and Ollie
Once you go
sadly
rabbit.
passed away.
You can't go back.
That's true. So, now that we've got our pet background
We've had a lot of
established,
pets
yes.
amongst all of us.
What's interesting that I'd like to discuss is how unique the pet owner relationship is. Now, what I mean by that is I have a friend, his name is Wes. I don't own Wes. I don't necessarily provide for Wes, but I maybe occasionally provide emotional support or just companionship or, quality time or whatever, some other things that you do engage in with your rabbits or your cats or your dogs or whatever. And because Pax loves when we just go sit in his room. He loves quality time. Like he's not gonna hang out with you, but he loves when you're there. Like it's it's those kind of things. So, but Wes also provides me with all the same things, and so the pet owner.
He's not gonna hang out with
relationship
you, but he likes when you're
is-
around.
right.
I hate hanging out, but I'm thrilled when people are in the room with me.
I'm not gonna say a word, but I'm just like.
Yeah, every once in a while you're like, just to make sure we're there.
But yeah, but the pet owners, there's no confirmation that they
That the animal appreciates what you do.
appreciates or understands, or the only thing they really can provide for you is like enjoyment, I suppose, right? I don't
Entertainment,
and so it's one of the biggest,
at least in an immediate sense.
yes,
Like,
yeah, and unexplained vet bills, and it's like, well, we had to give them this shot. Whatever. Okay, well, whatever. I don't understand it. But then at some point, you have to put a price tag on a pet's life, which you would never do for a human. So it's
this is what you had talked to me about initially when talking about the episode. It's like the value of a pet.
Yeah.
That's such a hard thing to like
Quantify.
determine.
So what do you? I don't know. What other qualities of the pet owner relationship stick out to you guys as like being this thing that is so much its own dynamic or relationship, I guess, because certainly Maggie does things for you, and you spend money on her, and I don't know.
I think the big part of it is you're interacting with something that doesn't have a will of its own necessarily. I think you're it's pure in some way. It is just
instinct,
and there's no like personal baggage. Like you don't think it's trying to screw you in any way. Like you know what I'm saying? Like
interesting.
Like, I think that's
We always try to see the good in our pets, like intention-wise.
I don't even know if it's good. I think it's just objectivity. I don't think it's good or bad. I think it's just stripped of both sides. It doesn't have morality. You know what I'm saying?
It
doesn't
does
have-
something not because it wants to be bad. It just does something because it has an instinct to do it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it can be taught that it's bad
Yeah.
or
Right.
not to do it. You know what I'm saying? But I think that's the big difference in human friendship or companionship with an animal.
Yeah.
I
Hadn't thought about it like that.
think one thing that's interesting is it's like a simpler version of a child, like especially like a dog or a cat, especially really more like a dog. It's not that don't get me wrong. I am not saying that having a dog is the same thing as having a kid. Very different things.
Only irrational people say such things.
Yeah. But having a dog has similar elements of having a child because it can't take care of itself, really.
Right.
Like, if you don't give it food, it's going to starve to death. Same thing with a baby. But the difference being, at some point, the child will grow up and you're raising another human being, whereas a dog is dependent on you for its entire existence. And it's a shortened existence, and there's no, like, big picture thing of, like, you're sending another thing out into the world like you are with a child or something. And the dog doesn't, like, fight you on decisions or anything. So it's hyper simplified, but it's got, like, little elements of responsibility that, for me, that one reason we got a dog is whenever we want to have kids, we like, let's get a dog so we can share this responsibility together of taking care of a living thing in our home.
Yeah.
You know, because neither one of us are parents. You know, we've never had a dog of our own. She had a dog growing up, but it was her parents' dog, essentially. So we were like, let's get this dog and kind of learn about ourselves and how we take care of something and what responsibilities like that might feel like. Obviously, it's going to be amplified when we have kids. But, there's just like a little bit of that in there that I think is unique. I think some people take it way too far to the point where this is our child. It's not your kid. It's a pet. Yeah. It's an animal. And you shouldn't treat your animals better than you treat other human beings. Yeah. But I think it's unique because, like you said, it's almost solely entertainment. You know, like that's the joy we get from Maggie is like she does something ridiculous or silly, or she makes a face at you, or like comes up and sits on top of you and wants to just stick her face in yours, and like little funny things like that. More so than, obviously there's that little bit of responsibility part, but I think that's a deeper thing that's almost more subconscious. Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. The thing that I always come back to is it feels like, and this is probably true until I have kids or whatever, but it feels like it's the most, and even maybe more than a kid too, because it just feels like it's the most, like, the simplest way you can think of or put or do, like, live out the gospel, like, in your house, because it's, and I know it's the hard thing we'll talk about later is like I don't think that when Pax dies I'm ever going to see him again, you know, and so that's part of the difficulty, but I'm saying he only knows what I reveal to him. He knows what is bad because I have to keep it from him. If he would unchecked, he would chew every single electrical cord in this house and kill himself. Yeah. He would fry. Sure. And so it's like, and you provide for them, and, you know, they have no sense of what the world is or how big the world is. And so it has always felt like, and it's so unconditional. It has to be unconditional, because if it's not, you'll hate PAX for chewing up your Xbox microphone cord.
Mm-hmm.
You'll hate PAX for chewing up your chair that you just got. It's like there's so many things that are like that where it has to be unconditional, it has to be unchecked, and it has to be, this is just the nature of who you are as a creature, and I accept that, and I'm taking full responsibility for that, and I want what's best for you. Even though it or she or he will never comprehend why you're even doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And so it always has felt like,
it's a great metaphor.
Not in like a blasphemic sense, that
Right.
like, I'm sort of getting a picture for how infantile we can probably seem.
Well,
to,
God writes into all of life the gospel. Like, you see it throughout Scripture, and throughout the real world. You see things that parallel the story of Christ and everything. And there's different stories throughout the Bible that are like foretelling, not even prophecy, just like they mirror. So that's written throughout all of existence, and I think that is intentionally there by God. Like, I don't think you just stumbled across that in some kind of like fitting two puzzle pieces together.
Crazy. Yeah,
I think it's written in the way God has designed the world.
Yeah.
And we are commanded in Scripture to have dominion over the world.
Yeah. True.
And that doesn't mean like dominate in a like power sense, but in a taking care of and shepherding,
stewarding. Yeah.
And I think that can apply to having a pet. It's like you're taking care of a creature that God created.
Yeah.
And giving it affection and caring for it because God cares for it.
Yeah.
Who thought the pets episode would get super?
Well, it's just, that's what's crazy about it. And that's where the idea came from. It's like, man, there's no reason to spend. Annie has to go to the vet. There's no reason to spend $250.
Yeah.
You mean logically?
Yes.
There's no logic
it doesn't
behind
make
it.
any sense. Like, I'm dedicating an entire room in my house, 33% of my house's bedrooms, to this thing that has, it's not a give and take. It's just not. And so there's so many reasons that, like, for you to, life would be, I can't go on vacation. Why? My mom was like, I can't go to Florida this weekend because my dad works in Florida. I can't fly to Florida this weekend because it's going to be too cold, and I don't want Harley to be in the 10-degree weather by himself. It's like, life is...
Is that their dog?
Yeah.
Okay.
Life is so much easier if, like, you don't have anyone else to take care of.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's why I was just like, this would be fun to talk about. But
Yeah, like the unconditional thing you're talking about. Steph and I came home from church 2 weeks ago, and Maggie had gotten sick and had diarrhea all over the floor.
You told me.
It was the worst smell I've ever smelled in my entire life, and I was not mad at her because it's not her fault.
Yeah.
She naturally will just pick up whatever off the floor and eat it because she's a dog. And she ate like a chocolate chip or something at my mom and dad's house, and chocolate does not sit well with
Went
dogs.
straight through her.
And she threw up in her crate overnight, and then we went to church and came home, and it was just a disaster. But, like, I can't be mad at her. Like, it's just, it was something she's not supposed to have, and it was a disaster area.
Yeah.
But, like, if you don't unconditionally, like, love your pet or care about the animal, you would throw that animal out of your house so quickly if that happened.
Some people do. It's not everyone that does that forever. I think some people, they kick their animal out, and that's where strays come from.
And it's also hard to take care of an animal, kind of like you're saying. Like, it's not as hard as having a kid, obviously. You
don't have to keep saying it. I mean, we can put it at the top if we need to.
It just annoys me that people treat it like that.
Yeah. And there's certainly, I mean, you could make the argument that there are some aspects of having a pet that are more difficult than having a kid. When a kid is 3, they can probably, at least on some level, describe to you what's wrong with them if something's wrong. And if Annie's just not eating one night, we have to figure that out. We have
Yeah.
to be like, okay, let's just check all this. It could be anything, but if
It's a different set of problems.
yeah.
a
So
different
I'm not
set of
saying
things.
it's obviously not as high stakes either.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just so different. But so, what are some fun memories? Any specific? For me, I guess, because it's hard to this one time. I especially with pets that you grew up with, but Smokey my Smokey would.
Mm-hmm.
When I lived at home for my first 2 years at Ozark, and so you very rhythmic,
Yeah.
routine life that you live when you're in college, and so every morning he would be at the foot of the stairs, and he would just be like sitting there, waiting for me to like walk down the stairs, and then he would follow me into the kitchen, and we had 2 bar stools, and he would like sit up in the other bar stool with me while I was like eating breakfast, and it was just like this unwritten thing that's like 4 out of 5 days a week he would do that, and that's probably one of my favorite memories of like Smokey One. It's just because that's what's so great about pets too, is it's like I didn't have to be like, dude, what would be so great?
Yeah.
You should do this. I know it sucks, but you should do this. Like, it would be really cool.
He just had something
yeah.
in his head.
So that one's always really stood out.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's probably me and Bob was my guy kind of thing. Robert, our cat. Every time, and I wasn't the only, one that he would do this for, but literally every time I would come home and park my car in the driveway, he would jump on top of it. And then he'd come into the car. So you'd roll your window down, and he'd walk along the side of the car on top of it, and then he'd jump into the car.
Dexterous.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, what kind of cat does that?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Bob was very unique.
Yeah, we always joked that he was basically a dog. Like, he would follow you around places, and I think my favorite memories of the boys in general, Bob and Smokey, was just like
They're the boys.
they're the boys. The boys.
Trademark.
Was just their relationship was really funny to me. Like, Bob was clearly the leader of the two.
Yeah. He was a fan favorite. I mean, he aimed to please. He's such a
He was super
outgoing.
friendly.
Yeah.
Like, I remember
Big parties, he'd always come down and hang out.
Who wants some pets?
I remember when Steph and I started dating and we came back and visited for the first time, he immediately would like crawl up into her lap. And there was one morning where she was asleep in her room, and I just like opened the door to like check on her, and Bob was on the bed just like sleeping beside her. He was just so friendly and wanted to be around people so much. But like, Bob and Smokey would always have this thing where they would clean each other. They would start cleaning and, give each other a bath. And then at some point in the thing, one of them would give the other one a look, or just put out some kind of like radar signal of some kind. It's like
Pheromone.
And they would just like freeze and stare at each other, and their ears would go back, and then eventually it would be like, and they would one would whack the other, and it would be like a slap exchange, and then they would separate. It's just something. It was just always entertaining watching them interact, and then
That's funny.
It's like they're trying to protect their masculinity.
Yeah.
Because they see that, like, how are we going to end this?
Right.
Like, we don't want people to just think that we're, like, cleaning each other.
Yeah.
We also have to, like,
We're also
fight
tough.
at the end.
We're tough. Bob would always go to other people's houses in the neighborhood. Like, multiple people would be like, yeah, Bob came by our house, and he came inside, and
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
we fed him a little bit, and he just, like, our neighbors sent us a video of him not too long before he passed away. He was just in their house, just walking around.
Oh my gosh.
And they were like, can we keep him? It's like, no, it's our neighbor's cat. We can't keep him. But yeah, they were fun.
Yeah, I've had some great cats, but I've always, like, anyone that would go over to your house, or, when Chelsea came over the first few times or whatever, it's like, they literally were, both of them in their own ways, were like the poster child for, like, what a cat
Could
is.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's because everyone's like, I hate cats. My
Well,
grandma had this old cat, and it used
Yeah.
to just hiss and scratch. Like, okay, well, great.
Yeah.
That's not so it's
For
like,
a house cat. Like
Yes.
they were what you would want for a house
Yeah.
cat,
Yeah.
for sure.
They were fun, silly. Bob always had a meow that was
Here's a question for
unlike
you,
any
Wes.
other.
Who do you think killed more small animals?
Oof. I think Smokey. I think Smokey was a bit more vicious. He caught a
Mice-
hummingbird in his mouth
Yeah.
in midair, and it was alive.
that's insane.
He didn't kill it. He just
Yeah, that probably does give him the crown.
Dad like looked outside and saw him jump down. He's like, "What was that?" And then he opened the door and he came in, and feathers were just sticking out of his mouth on either
Just
side.
going 100
Yeah.
miles an hour.
And he just had it in his mouth.
Oh my gosh.
So Smokey was fast.
Yeah.
He was a quick.
He was probably faster than Bob. For
Yeah,
sure, yeah.
he was a quick little guy. We would always play this game where we had a napkin on the kitchen counter, and he would get up in a stool and sit with his little eyes over, and just like quick
Yeah.
slaps and bites at the napkin. I'm with Maggie. It's been very interesting because I've never had a dog before, and especially puppies, obviously can be a lot.
Yeah.
But it's been so interesting seeing her starting to develop those dog things, like older dog behaviors. Like she obviously has puppy energy at 1 still, and can go nutso when someone, because she's so friendly. She wants to be best friends with literally everybody.
Yeah.
And every dog, every creature. She wanted to be friends with Smokey so badly.
Yeah.
But he just hated her. Rightfully so in his party. He was 16. She was 6 months old.
Mm-hmm.
And she was in his house. But
He let her know. He let her
yeah.
know before she before he left the building. He
you've
let her
got
know.
a pair of jeans that reflect
Yeah.
how much he nailed her on the ear one time, and
Oh yeah. I
Lots of
remember that.
blood.
Yeah.
It was a
Um,
lot of blood.
that was kind of freaky. But the thing that's been interesting is seeing her start to develop. Like, she'll just come up on the couch and just like sit beside us and cuddle. Like when she was a puppy, she really wouldn't do that. She had too much stuff going on in her little brain that she was like, "Can we play? Like, let's go." But now every morning she'll go out, go to the bathroom, and I'll open the door and I'll be like, "Do you want to see Mama?" And Steph will still be in bed, and Max will run over to the door and just like run into bed and just like sit in Steph's lap and just cuddle.
Nice.
And those are things that she didn't really used to do.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing her start to phase out of the puppy thing slowly. And it's just really interesting. Like, her being a puppy was fun and
Yeah.
entertaining, but like, I'm excited to have like a dog that just like hangs out, and you can like pet and cuddle with and
Yeah.
play every so often and whatnot. But so that's been a different experience having a dog because we grew up with cats.
Yeah.
And cats are so hands off. Like, you just give them some food every so often and let them go.
Mm-hmm.
Change out their litter box every so often.
Yeah. Well, so what are some lessons that Maggie, let's get to the meat of the episode. What are some lessons that Maggie have taught you or has taught you that Bob and Smokey couldn't have while you were growing up? Or what did Bob and Smokey maybe teach you that,
Yeah.
you just hadn't thought about until...
I think the thing that's interesting for dogs is like they're so much more trainable and they can learn things much more than cats can. Bob and Smokey learned stuff and were trained, quote unquote, in some ways, but they willingly submitted to the training. If they didn't want to, they could. Cats can be strong-willed.
Yeah.
Whereas, especially a lab is so eager to please that Steph can do something. She taught Maggie leave it in 30 minutes because she's so eager to learn and please, and she's really smart that she'll even not look at the thing that she's supposed to leave so she doesn't like tempt herself to go after it.
Yeah.
But it's been interesting kind of teaching something that is not another like I've worked with kids
Yeah.
in the past, and so has Steph, and we teach Sunday school. It's interesting teaching an animal and trying to be diligent in terms of if you stop doing the training, it'll leave their brain.
Yeah.
So it's been a discipline thing for us too. Like, okay, we gotta make sure we're doing X, Y, and Z with Maggie, otherwise she's not gonna learn.
Yeah.
We've for 6 months we've been taking her on walks with kibble, and if she runs out in front of us, we say here, and she comes back and we give her kibble for standing beside us because we're trying to get her to walk right beside us, and she does a pretty good job, but she still goes out, and we're still kind of repeating, and it makes us be more disciplined as well in teaching her. So I think that's something I've learned, is to be more disciplined in training up this animal, you know, because it's a new thing. But
Anything from
I don't know that.
how do Bob and Smokey live on in your life?
Yeah, I don't know if it would be anything that isn't specific to a cat. I was trying to think of something more like how to. I feel like I could read a cat very well now. Like, you know, for instance, like if you're close to them, you should not stare into their eyes for very long.
Yeah.
I learned that pretty early on
because
with
they will
Bob.
be like, stop it.
Yeah, and Bob, like you said, is one of the better cats that I've ever been around, and he would still
Give you a whack.
Yeah,
I remember one time Bob was like kind of over across the living room, and you got down on all fours and kind of got big and like stared, and he freaked out. He did not like that at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that's not specifically maybe something bigger picture than just cat. I mean, the big one is responsibility. I mean, that's the one that's low hanging fruit, but it's also probably the main one for any pet ownership. I would say is you're responsible for that creature. So all the other ones are tied into that. So you're looking for. Like I said, you can tell when something's wrong, or you can you can tell when they're not eating or whatever it is. I would say just responsibility of especially as young as I was when we had them. It just helps facilitate the lessons you're being taught from other human beings.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Yeah. The biggest things that I can think of that having rabbits specifically have taught me is like I don't know, I was just never it's interesting, you can't I don't own Pax and Annie to get something, and that was just I don't think that had ever occurred to me. So for example, when you get I got Pax, so we got Pax from a breeder, which I probably won't. Now that I know more about the rabbit perception in terms of the general public, I probably won't do that again. So I will say that. But we did, and so we went up Kansas City, got him, and he was, tiny. They can't leave their mom until at least 8 weeks. So, but even at 8 weeks, Pax was like as big as like a pretty big, but still it's a baked potato. Like he's still, and you bring him into this new environment, and he's tiny, and all he's ever known is his siblings and his mom. And now, at the time, 4 giants, right? It was me, you, Zach, and Chelsea, just like staring at him. And trying
to look at it from his perspective.
The thing that sets rabbits apart is from every other pet that I've ever had is they're naturally prey animals. So they're scared of everything. Their instincts is telling them everything is going to kill them. And so if you have to develop this like rapport with with a rabbit. And so everything online, and it will just tell you, sit on the ground and just watch a video or read or talk to them, because they need to know that you're there, and they need to know that you're not a threat, and they need to be familiar with your voice and your scent. So just sit in the same room. And I mean, it was 2-3 months or whatever, where I would just be like laying on the ground in like Pax's little area or whatever, and at the same time, you're buying food for him and changing his litter and making sure he has water and making sure he has hay and making sure he's got toys. And I mean, and then he doesn't even care. He doesn't even like you, and it was just like, you have to cultivate a relationship with it, just like almost like you would with like a person, which is crazy, because it's most of the time, I mean, dogs, they want to love you.
Yeah.
Cats,
they might get temporarily freaked out by a change in place whenever they're puppies and not want to go to sleep and stuff like that. But like, you don't have to persuade a puppy to love you.
Exactly. And so, and even cats, they're never scared of you, right? They're like, well, I'll go toe to toe with you if you want, so
I will kill you.
Yeah. So it's just been so interesting having that experience, because it was like, oh, okay. So for the first time, I realized I'm not doing this to get something out of it.
Yeah.
And which is, you guys know, I'll be the last to admit, not the most unselfish person in the entire world. So it was very like eye-opening to be like, interesting, but I love him. And, same with Annie. And when we got her, she was, surrounded by people that didn't understand how to take care of her. She didn't have any hay. She was in a tiny enclosure and surrounded by dogs and everything. And so she was freaked out too. And so you had to do the same thing. And you just be like, no, you're safe. Like,
you're okay.
Yeah. And it was, and everything in their brain is like, no, I'm not. They're bigger than me. You're picking me up. You're going to kill me. And it was just like, no, no, So, so that was just patience, I think, and persistence of things like that, is like, it has to be consistent, or so those are the two biggest things that I just have been realizing especially after we got Annie too, because then it was like, oh, Pax knows who Dad is, and Pax knows when it's pellet time, and Pax knows what kind of hay he likes, but then we had to start all over with Annie. It's like, oh, okay, so she's new. She also thinks we're gonna kill her, so. But yeah, so those are the two biggest things I think would be, but.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing just about pets in general is the affection that we develop for them is always outweighs the affection that they have for us.
Yeah.
Like even a dog that absolutely adores you, you love it more than it loves you because it can't actually feel love. Yeah. Like it's a dog. It enjoys you and it is happy and positive whenever you're around if it likes you, but we develop this very deep affection for animals, and it's naturally part of us in some way. Like we're wired to think these animals are cute and think that they're funny and
quirky
entertaining.
And
and for most people to want to take care of them. To endure the hard parts of having a pet for the little moments of like, Maggie has a weird like lip thing. She's making a funny face at me.
So funny.
Yeah. But it's just an interesting dynamic, and I think you're completely right in that it's very unique.
Yeah.
Like in terms of the relationships that we have with the world, because we have a different relationship with nature, like wild nature, and we have a different relationship with animals that are not like domestic in the sense that we have them in our home and stuff. Like we're exercising dominion in the world in different ways, obviously, like breeding animals for food, for resources, for whatever, there's all these different dynamics, but amongst all of that, pets are really specific in like ancient, like they're pet cats in ancient Egypt or whatever.
Yeah.
So, it's odd but interesting.
Nice. Do you want to talk about this?
We can.
It's already longer than I thought it would be, but I don't think that's a bad thing. But
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can.
so yeah, that's. I just thought it'd be cool to talk at least about, if they taught us anything specific or whatever. But going along that line of like unique connection or whatever, how do you navigate losing a pet, whether it be old age or my dog got ran over by a car, or whatever.
Mhm.
How, I don't know. Have you guys ever had like an experience where, or how do you cope? How do you come to terms with it? Because my experience is Smokey 1 was really the first cat that I, because like I said, when Sugar died or whatever, they had her before I was there. For the most of her life where I was there, I was either 1 or 2 or 3, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But so Smokey 1 was really the first time where I was like, this is a deep connection and it's gone. And what do you think about it? Because I don't know. Maybe we'll see him again. I doubt it. I don't think that they have souls. I suppose that maybe heaven or new earth or whatever will have animals in it, but that doesn't necessarily mean, and so I don't know.
Theologically, I've heard various arguments about the resurrection, like the end of all resurrection stuff, that the dead will be resurrected, including animals. I've heard that as well. I don't think we'll see animals in heaven, like in a spiritual form, but
Right.
I think it's theoretically possible that when the resurrection happens of the dead at the end of time as we know it, or however you look at eschatology and all of that stuff, that we'll see animals like that again. But I think that's something that's I've never really thought about in terms of seeing them again. I try to think about it more because there's no way of knowing that truly.
Right. Yeah.
Because Scripture's too vague on it, really. And that means we don't need to know whether or not that happens. So I tend to think about it in terms of just like what, like that was a phase of life that we had Bob and Smokey, because both of them, like I said at the beginning, both of them passed away this past year. Smokey was only a couple months ago. And it was interesting seeing them decline and think about like, okay, what is humane for this animal? Like, how do we help it pass on in a way that's not like miserable and all of this stuff? So that was the weirdest thing, is like Bob and Smokey both declined very quickly. Bob was like, he was losing weight and had kidney problems, and then like 2 months he just shrunk up, and then there was a weekend where he was not moving very well at all, and they had to put him down. Very similar thing happened to Smokey just 6 months later. He passed away at home, thankfully, so my parents didn't have to take him and go through the experience of putting him down, because I know that was rough. That's probably also different. It's like putting something down is probably a different experience than it just passing on naturally. But I thought a lot about like just the finality of relationships that happen. Like you feel it with people sometimes. Like people come in and out of your life, and then the time that you're around that person is just over, Yeah. Some people, it's not that way. Some people you're constantly around for the majority of your life. But I think a lot of people never want anything to end. They always want it to be. And when something passes away, I think that's part of it is our sin nature wanting to cling on to things. Don't die. We can't die. Death is not a thing. And not to say death isn't sad for us, but
I mean, I think it's
a part of it.
Natural and healthy to mourn something.
Sure.
I think it's definitely, it should be encouraged to be, well, not encouraged to be sad, but you should be.
Why aren't you sad?
I think that it's healthy to do that.
Yeah.
To a certain extent. I think
Yes.
that this is a good opportunity to bring up. I don't have a super popular opinion on pets. I think bringing up what you were talking about a little bit ago on, I'm not crazy about the domestication of animals anyway. Like, the older I've gotten, the more it's weird if you think about it. It's weird to put a wolf in a house. It's weird to put a wildcat in a house because that's what they're doing when you breed. This has nothing to do with
Those being like dogs and cats?
Yes.
Right, okay.
The thing is, this is the caveat. The cat's out of the bag, no pun intended.
Hey.
Domestic animals are everywhere now.
Yeah.
So like a
It's already
cat's
done.
alive, it's right
Yeah.
there. You can care for it. I think that's awesome. I just mean, if you go back, I think it's very strange that part of God's creation was siphoned off and tried to be controlled by us. I think that's very strange, and I don't love it. But anyway, I think, all that being said, I think there's nothing wrong with having a pet at all. And I think that
You're saying big picture, it's weird.
Big
Like,
picture, it's
you
very
zoom out,
strange.
it's like, huh.
And I don't know that I would have another pet. Not maybe based on that, but maybe just based on,
I know I would never have another cat.
yeah,
Like,
I don't know.
personally.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, like you're saying, I think it also depends on how much of yourself you put into a relationship with an animal. It should be measured.
Yeah.
It should not be. I think that's where people really go off the deep end when they lose a pet, is when they've put in their entire being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your being can't be held in a pet.
Mhm.
Your being can be held in other people to a certain extent, but really your being can only be held by your creator.
Mhm.
So I think that's where the scale is off for people whenever they do lose their pet and they lose
It's
themselves.
because people put their value in the wrong things in life
yeah.
generally.
And it's not
that's
like you
one
can't
thing to
love the
do.
pet.
Yeah.
Or love animals or love,
And be sad when it passes.
or the people,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's fully natural to mourn and be sad. And
I think along those lines,
the thing about it,
the thing about it too is like it teaches us to mourn in some ways, because a lot of us lose a pet when we're younger. Like most people have lost a pet younger than we were.
Sure.
Whenever Bob and Smokey
yeah, I mean,
passed.
they
lived
probably on average 10 years, maybe
they live for
less than that.
16 years.
Yeah.
Like, so it teaches us younger at a younger age to like deal with, hey, things pass away, things die, and at some point in time, your grandparents are going to pass away. At some point in time, your parents are going to pass away. Like, all of these things happen, and they catechize us to the next level of thing when we're a child, because we can handle, as a kid, you can handle an animal passing away somewhat. You know? But you learn to do it healthy, just like you're saying.
Yeah.
A lot of deep
Yeah.
stuff in this. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's a very unique thing to lose a pet. So I don't know what the correct way to go about it is. Because if you do believe that you will never, see Smokey One again or whatever, that's such a hard concept to grasp, because when I do lose my parents or when I lost my grandma around the same time as Smokey One, it's like, well,
Gonna see him
she's made new and she's not even close to suffering anymore, and and so it's just such a different loss. So I don't know, it's sometimes I'll just be like sitting with Pax and I'll be like, this 4 more years is all that will be, and it's like you just gotta sit there and you gotta be like, freaking love you.
Yeah.
He's like,
he's gonna kill me. But
I saw a commercial for a It was like a little keychain or something for like commemorating a dog or something that has passed away. And in that moment, I jumped forward in time in my brain 10 years. It's like, Maggie is going to die in like 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
Ideally, that she lives a full life, for a dog. But I just like jumped and was like, man, that's going to be not fun whenever it happens, because I love this freaking dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird.
It is.
Because it is a different creature than we are in almost
Maybe
every
it's so
conceivable
weird
way.
because of what you're saying. We're trying to control creation on some level.
I don't know if it's it's just a person.
I don't know.
I don't know if
this podcast is not for you, and my name is Jake.
My name is Wes.
Beep.
Cool. That's a whole nother episode. That's why I was like, we can't talk about this.